Oh boy, welcome back to the realm of history. Here we have live review session for chapter 6. As you can see, I've been attacked this week by the Leaf Gang. I don't know what I did to those guys, but I'm going to have to get them for that one. That was pretty excessive, little bit excessive in my opinion there. Nonetheless, I'm here tonight to help you get ready for this big picture quiz. Wanted to talk about just a few things here before we get into the question and answer session. Here's the agenda for tonight. Of course, I'm going to go over a couple of key terms with you. I have a couple of key figures that I wanted to cover. Then I'll do a little bit of AP prep and advice. I'm going to start weaning away from that a little bit to give you a chance to prove what you can do. Of course, we'll have question and answer time. And then I'd like to finish up with a little bit of final advice for you getting ready for this quiz. I would say overall, if this academic year were a marathon, we're really just finishing the warm-up. We're still in the warm-up phase, getting ready to run. As you know, I chose to teach some of the preliminary chapters. After this quiz tomorrow, we're going to jump to chapter 10, and we're going to get into AMSCO, and we're going to start breaking down the AP units and topics. So it's going to be a whole new level of challenge starting later this week and early next week, getting into that. So you will need to start bringing your AMSCO book to class on occasion. I'll try to warn you when we're going to need that, but there's going to be a few more pages of reading per week in that category. Okay, so once again, we're going to do some key terms right off the bat. Then we'll go into key figures. We'll have some AP talk. We'll have a question and answer session, and then I'll have some final advice. So let me go into the key terms first that I want to cover. These were some that I fielded questions about today, so I wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, starting with the Pax Romana. When you think about the Pax Romana, you want to remember that it was 207 years. That's a long time. And for Rome, they experienced a lot of peace and prosperity. Now, please understand, there were some bad things that happened. Of course, in 207 years, you're not going to have perfection. Yeah, there were some border wars. There were some skirmishes, but nothing major. Okay, nothing major. That's one thing that I really want you to take from the Pax Romana. It literally means peace, the Roman peace. And so that period of peace and prosperity is something in which Rome experienced a lot of growth. And I think that that's important to remember. There were a lot of questions on what I meant on the review sheet about Christianity and its spread. Obviously, section 3 dove into Christianity pretty detailed. But what I want you to focus on top of all the content there, are what are some things that led to its spread? So it's a very welcoming faith. The idea that it's accepting of all people, accepting of differences. It talks about the afterlife. If you do good deeds or if you follow Christ, then you can go to heaven. These are all very welcoming ideas that helped Christianity spread and still helps it spread today. But I want to talk about some more basic things. Number one, the epistles, the letters of Paul. Like when you go to church, when you go to Mass on Sunday and you hear a letter from St. Paul to the Corinthians or a letter from St. Paul to the Ephesians, these are all parts of the Roman Empire in which St. Paul was sending out letters trying to encourage people to convert to Christianity. That actually played a very big role in the spread of Christianity. Finally, I think the trade routes that the Romans were participating in, both by land and by sea, also helped culturally diffuse. Cultural diffusion is a huge term for us, the message of Christianity. So those are some of the factors that I think you could talk about. The Roman road system, the concrete roads, these are all great ways that allowed for Christianity to spread in a normal fashion. Now, there is a term on the review sheet under the terms called the Aeneid. You can find it spelled differently. I chose to spell it in the more simple fashion, the more English translation, but your book has it spelled Aeneid. So don't be confused. It's the same thing. It's an epic poem that's a continuation of Homer's epics, and it was authored by Virgil. Virgil was a Roman epic poet who wrote long stories about a Trojan soldier called Aeneas. All you really need to know is that it's an epic poem and a continuation of Homer and that Virgil wrote it. I gave you a little bit of extra in section 5 about what it was about. Finally, I think the most common question that I received today was, what did I mean by the Roman Republic and its foundation? Please understand that a republic is a form of government in which people have power through voting rights. And most often, the voting rights are expressed by voting for their leaders. They have the right to vote for people who then represent them in government. This is the same type of system that we use here in the United States today. Our government system is a republic. It's actually a constitutionally limited republic. And so we predicate a lot of what we do based on the initial Roman foundations. Also, please remember that the Romans created the republic because they wanted to step away from monarchy. They had a bad experience with the Etruscan king Tarquin the Proud. And so they really wanted to formulate a system of government that would not put too much power into one single person's hands. And that's what they basically established with limited terms, 1-year terms for consuls, senators having limitations on their terms, so on and so forth. Okay, next I would like to bounce to a couple of key figures from your sheet. I'm not going to go over too many of the key figures, but I want to talk about Peter first. Peter was one of the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ. He was really one of the closest to Jesus, and he became the first Christian/Catholic pope. And he did travel to Rome, and he eventually was martyred. He was crucified by the next key figure, who is Emperor Nero. Emperor Nero is talked about in your textbook on page 164. He's a pretty evil guy, a pretty bad dude by all accounts in history. He was known for persecuting Christians. He murdered many Christians. He crucified many Christians, including our first pope, St. Peter. He was ordered by Nero to be put to death by crucifixion. So those two key figures are related. That's about all you really need to know about them. You should probably know a little bit more about Peter, being a student at St. Mary's and having theology class. But for the purposes of our class, those are the key ideas that you want to know there. Okay, jumping into the AP Prep. Now, on the bottom of the screen, what I have is a scroll, and it's talking about what are the most important factors for tomorrow's AP portion of the quiz. Remember, there's going to be 2 multiple choice questions, and then there's going to be 1 SAQ. Here are the topics that you're going to need to know. For the multiple choice, it's going to focus on population change in the Roman Empire. What I want you to think about tonight, I want you to ponder this question. What might have caused this population change? Think about that, and we'll come back to that in a second. The short answer question, or SAQ, is going to focus on Roman law. I told you to study the bulleted list on page 183 at the end of section 5 on Friday online, and that I think is going to be imperative in your ability to help answer the prompt and the questions that you're going to have in the SAQ. Remember, the SAQ is going to have 3 separate questions related to a prompt. I'm going to tell you that this prompt is going to have 2 sections, and they are of Roman laws and punishments. So by studying Roman law and its goals, I think that's going to help you. Now, please understand, when I talked about the legacy of Rome, I said that the Roman goal was to treat people fairly and establish law that was fair and equal for rich and poor. However, I also stated that in practice, we might find that this didn't often happen. And you can compare this to the Babylonian code of laws known as Hammurabi's Code. If you remember taking a look at some of the primary sources from Hammurabi's Code, they also did not treat slaves and women and poor folks on an equal basis. We will also find this in Roman law. So that's what you're going to be up against a little bit tomorrow. When we talk about population change with the multiple choice questions on the AP portion tomorrow, one of the key themes that I want you to remember is the population is going to grow as the empire expands. Remember how the Romans treated the people that they conquered. They assimilated them into the empire. If they were close to the city of Rome, sometimes they were granted full citizenship and voting rights. The further away they got from the city of Rome, they were granted fewer rights. But nonetheless, all of those people that the Roman military went out and conquered eventually became part of the total population of Rome. And that's a really big factor that you're going to need to know for tomorrow. Okay, we are closing in on the question and answer session. I'm going to go to the comments now. And I see some Leaf Gang members, and I'm not very happy about that. So I'm going to open up for questions now. I see a lot of old folks that had me last year, and so I'm looking for some of my students from this year to go ahead and ask any key questions that they need answered. So I am open at this point to definitely answer those questions for you. I'm here to help you out, but go ahead and please ask. Okay. All right, here's a question. If we have COVID, are we going to take this right when we get back? I would hope so. What happens if you wait? You're going to miss more time. So if you can, hey, the most important thing, if you're out and sick, the most important thing is your health. Let's get that out first and foremost. I want you to be healthy and get healthy. But when you do come back, I want you to hit the ground running. So I would hope that you could, if you're healthy enough, watch my review lessons, watch my videos on YouTube, go over the review sheet. It's posted on the gradebook so that when you do return, you can take that as soon as possible. Okay, here we go. We've got Charlie. Okay, let's talk about this. Could I summarize main factors leading to the fall of Rome? Well, I would refer you to page 174, Charlie. That's going to have a plethora of information on that chart there. That's going to give you great summary of some of those main ideas. Now, if you're asking me for tomorrow, you're going to have a short answer question about this. I can guarantee you that. I told you earlier in the week, hey, come up with a list of 3 factors that you think you could defend and support. What it's going to break down to is it's going to be coming up with which one you think is the most important factor. You could talk about economic problems. You could talk about the problems in the military. You could talk about the invasions by the Germanic tribes, like the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, the Huns, the Vandals. By the way, the Vandals are a group that were practicing a lot of vandalism when they invaded. That's where the word vandalism comes from. It's from this Germanic tribe called the Vandals. Now, so thinking about some of those key categories, right? What you want to do is you want to be able to defend at least one of those. So I want you to formulate an opinion. If you form an opinion that uses one of the factors that you were taught in lesson in section 4, or that's covered in the chart on page 174, you're going to be in good shape. You just have to make sure that you can defend and support your opinion. This will not get you the credit on the short answer. The main factor for the fall of Rome were the Germanic invasions. That's not going to be enough. What you're going to have to do is say why, say how, and connect that. Kind of like I taught you ACE today. Answer the question, cite evidence, further expand on your thoughts. I really want to know that you know the ins and outs of this very big picture idea that led to the fall of Rome. So that's the best advice that I could give you on that question. Jay Simpson says, can you define Attila? I imagine you're saying Attila the Hun and the Huns. Yes. So Attila the Hun was simply a chieftain or a chief of the Huns. What you want to know about the Huns, they're from modern day Hungary. Okay, they come from the plains lands in between Rome and what we call Russia today. So they're called the Huns because they're from modern day Hungary. They're horsemen, they're nomads, and they're pretty bad dudes. They roll in on horseback. They attack the Germanic tribes primarily in modern day Germany and the extended region there, northern Italy also, which then pushes the Germanic tribes into Roman territory and causes conflict there. So that's really the big picture idea of what you want to know about both Attila. He's just the leader of the Huns, the most famous leader of the Huns. And then who are the Huns? Nomadic horsemen that invade the Germanic tribes, which then pushes them down into Roman territory. Alex asked a similar question to Charlie. Once again, page 174 gives you everything that you need. Section 4, the notes that I passed out, gives you everything that you need there. I kind of talked about what my strategy would be in getting ready for that. All right, here we go. Maya, that's crude. That's a banned term from the realm, and I'm gonna have to take that down now. I got it. Okay, let me talk about the picture wars. Okay, they're hilarious. I agree. I'm laughing inside about using the word Tammy, and I'm allowed to use it because I'm using it as an example. But the word Tammy has been banned from the realm. It's on the list now. I'm going to add it in. I'm going to write it on the list so that it's official. We just can't have the picture wars. Okay, the picture wars, they're very funny. Let me just say that I think they're hilarious, but we got to be smart. We got to be appropriate. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty good, Maya. I appreciate that. I don't know who was in the background there. I didn't really look, but we got to be careful with that kind of stuff. Okay. The question is, though, I'll read it out loud because we got picture wars going on. Besides knowing about Cleopatra and Mark Antony falling in love, what else do we need to know about them? Well, Cleopatra was a very, very bright queen of Egypt. She was power hungry, and she used her wit and her charm to get into positions of power. She became an ally of Mark Antony. They combined their forces. So outside of falling in love, they did combine military forces, and they fought against Octavian together. Okay. That's really the big picture. What they were trying to do, they were trying to use Mark Antony's Roman troops and Cleopatra's Egyptian troops to conquer Octavian and then eventually take over Rome. But they lost in a famous battle called the Battle of Actium, which was a naval battle in the Mediterranean Sea in 31 BC, by the way. So they lose that battle. And that's really outside of their love affair. That's really what you want to know about those two. Gabby, that would be also what you'd want to know about Cleopatra, how she used charm and wit to gain positions of power and influence. And then, of course, her alliance with Mark Antony and that Roman faction there. Alexia, I went over just a second ago the Huns and Attila, so hopefully that was sufficient for you. Josh, I think I went over that. Ryan says, can you go over what we need to know about Julius Caesar? Yes. Julius Caesar, number one factor for Julius Caesar, he's a military guy. He starts off as a military general. He became part of the first triumvirate. He was sent to Gaul, which is modern-day France, as governor, and he earned the respect of his men by fighting right alongside them and expanding the Roman Empire. The Senate and your boy Pompey get a little bit jealous of him, and so they order him to return without his army. He defies that order. He crosses what's called the Rubicon River, comes into Italy with his army, and is ready to fight Pompey. He whoops up Pompey in many places, including Greece, Italy, Egypt. And then because of his success, he's actually named dictator for life. He does a lot of reforms for the poor, which are talked about in section 2, those notes that I handed out, like expanding the Senate to include plebeians, giving the poor land in the Roman frontiers, so on and so forth. And then because the Senate gets a little jealous of him, they actually assassinate him in 44 BC by stabbing him to death. That's a general overlay of what you want to know about Julius Caesar. Okay, I'm making my way down the list. Okay, Avery says, can you repeat how Nero and Peter are related? So I'll go over everything about them again. Peter was the first pope. He was one of the biggest followers and disciples of Jesus Christ. He was really close to Jesus. Jesus referred to him as his rock, okay? Peter eventually becomes the first pope and travels to Rome to try and spread the Christian faith. While there, under his leadership, Christians refuse to worship the Roman gods. They catch the heat of Nero, who's the emperor of Rome in the early stages of the AD time. He was emperor, I think you could write down 54 to 68, okay? So one of the things that you really want to know is that he orders the crucifixion of Peter. So St. Peter died by way of crucifix, and this was ordered by Emperor Nero, who was known for persecuting Christians. Timeline of everything. Okay. When we talk about the timelines, I know I put timelines of major events on the review sheet. Fortunately for you, you're not going to have a timeline on the quiz. Sometimes I've done timelines in the past, but because I'm adding an SAQ on the AP portion, I've dropped the timeline. So you won't really have to know too much about the time frame. What you want to know, back in the 600s, 500s BC, this is when some of the early settlements of Rome were occurring, okay? So you've got people settling in modern-day Italy, midpoint of Italy, central Italy, right around Rome. You've got the Latins, the Greeks, the Etruscans, okay? So in the BC era, you've got the establishment of Rome. You've got the Etruscan monarchs coming into play. Then right around 100 BC up to about the birth of Christ, you start to see the empire expand. You start to see Julius Caesar. You see the end of the Roman Republic and it being replaced by a dictatorship under Caesar. Then you have what we learned about the Pax Romana from 27 BC all the way to 180 AD. So that's a nice time span of peace and prosperity, 207 years, 27 BC all the way to 180 AD. And then you have the fall of Rome, okay, happening when some of the problems start to come into play in the mid 400s, okay, AD. That's when you have the fall and decline of Rome, with Romulus Augustulus being the last emperor at 14-year-old boy. He was a 14-year-old boy, just a little bit younger or about the same age as you guys, trying to rule a falling Roman Empire. All right. Grace says, what should we write for the definition of the Aeneid? This is an epic poem, and it's authored by the Roman writer Virgil. And it's a continuation of the epics of Homer. In particular, it's a continuation of the Iliad, which was about the Trojan War. Those are the key things that you need to know about the Aeneid. Okay, here we have Alex. How do you want us to compare the Roman Republic to the United States? Do you want us to compare the government system? Yes. So when you look at the short answer possibilities, the second one on your review sheet that says compare the Roman Republic to that of the United States. Yes, that is a big picture question. That's going to be a short answer question. What you want to focus on are what are the similarities and what are the differences? When you say compare, you want to be able to do both similarities and differences. So I'll just focus on a couple of things. Similarities are pretty clear. I mean, the system of government is the same. A republic is a republic. It's where you vote for representatives to represent you. You basically vote for your leaders, and then it's their job to represent you in the government. If they don't do a good job representing you, then the power that you have is that you don't reelect them next time they're up for election. That's really the power that you have as an individual. That's why we vote. We do vote now on some individual local bills and things of that nature, but most of what we do is vote for representatives. So that was the same between both. One of the differences, I'm just focusing on one each. I'm not going to give you the whole answer. I mean, I think you guys can understand. And there's also a chart. There's also a couple of charts in the text that talk about in section 1 and in section 2, what are the commonalities, what are the differences there. And maybe I can pull that up at the end if we have time. But what you really want to focus on is that one major difference between the two entities is the fact that in Rome, you have two consuls. So you have two leaders, two chief executives that could veto each other. In our system, we have one president. Now, it doesn't mean that the president has all power, but there's no real check or balances on executive power. There's, of course, the judicial branch, the legislative branch, which offer checks and balances on what the president can and cannot do. But there's no direct leadership challenge. Like if you had a consul who wanted to go to war and the other consul didn't, they could veto the other. Veto is actually, it starts with this concept. That's where the term comes from. It means to overrule or to disagree. So that's one big factor. And then the second big difference, I'm going to go with two on the differences, is the fact that Rome could have a dictator. During times of crisis, Rome could install a dictator to basically make decisions. Like if there was a war or if there was a famine or there was a natural disaster, they install a dictator who's usually a military guy to make quick decisions. I mean, if you have two consuls arguing back and forth, it could take some time to come to a conclusion. So by installing that dictator, that's going to give you that one person that's in charge for a very limited time, but has absolute power. A dictator in Rome had absolute power to make laws, to decide on wars, and to make very big decisions. The next question, I'm not going to pull it up, but it says, can I post notes online for students that are out? Basically, that's what I do with my YouTube videos. My notes are on the screen. So all you would need to do is go to my YouTube channel and find chapter 10, which will be for next week, or for this chapter, it'd be chapter 6 playlist. And as I go through the lesson, I have my notes on the screen. So you can pause it. You can copy them down. They are right there. If you really needed me to send you the notes, what I have is I have my entire lesson plan. So there's a lot of teacher talk that I can send you. That's a possibility. That would be something that you'd have to email me kind of on a personal level and say, hey, Mr. Lengel, I'm having a little trouble. I've been absent. Can I get the notes? I mean, I could work on that for you. But that's why I go through the time to make all of the YouTube videos that I make. It's for students that are absent or students who want extra help. So that should cover anybody who's out for an extended period of time. And then, of course, if you need my help, please reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer promptly and help you in any way that I can. Avery, good question. How did the first triumvirate fall apart? Well, Crassus was just the money guy, so he was kind of brushed to the side. We don't really worry about you, Crassus. You're not really a very big leader. So he was putting the money forth, and they were just kind of taking the money and using it. You got your boy Caesar, and you have Pompey. And Pompey kind of grows jealous of Caesar's fame and fortune and the fact that he's growing very popular with the poor. And so he wants to battle against Caesar. So it ends in jealousy, and you've got Pompey versus Caesar, in which Caesar kind of wipes the floor with Pompey's military. He really whooped him up pretty bad in almost every military confrontation that they had. So it ends in civil war, in which Caesar wins, and then he becomes the sole ruler and dictator of Rome. Next question. Do we need to know what impact the policies and reforms of Julius Caesar had in the Roman Empire? Yes. I put that in the notes. I had a really long section in that handout that I gave you from section 2, and I talked about those extensively. Really, the impact that was one of our essential questions. So that's always something that you want to focus on. The impact that those policies had is it brought him great fame with the poor. It elevated the poor status. It elevated the status of women as well. So his reforms really did a lot to help the marginalized people, the plebeian society, the people who weren't citizens, who became citizens, the members who had little say, got more say, the people who had very little land and very little wealth had an opportunity to gain land. So his reforms essentially helped the poor in a very, very big way. That's how I would answer that essential question for sure. Okay, you guys want to play games with the Tammy? That's crew for Pia. That's crew for Avery. I'll give you the crew. You got to pick up papers tomorrow. No doubt about it. Janda, crew for you. Yeah, if you want to say Tammy, you're going to have the crew. Okay, can I define? It's hard to laugh. It's hard not to laugh, but Oh, Josh Janda says Tammy with a question mark. I don't know. I don't know. I just know that the way that it was phrased in my class, it was derogatory. So I don't know who Tammy is. I don't know why it's a funny joke, but I did ban it because it was a distraction, and it's a distraction tonight for some. You got to be here now. So anybody who says Tammy or puts Tammy, even Janda, you're the crew captain, so you can decide. But you can argue with me. I'm going to give anybody who writes Tammy crew. That's it. I have a record of it right here on the chat. Okay, Jay Simpson's got a real question. Can you define the Germanic people? The Germanic people are tribes that lived on the outside of the Roman Empire. They were generally hostile tribes, and they're called the Germanic people. Back then, Germania was a much larger region than it is of just modern-day Germany. It included like Western Russia, Hungary, Poland, Germany, parts of France, modern-day Belgium. All of those regions would be considered Germanic peoples and Germanic tribes. There's a couple of maps in your book. I put the maps onto your review sheet. If you study those maps, there's some that show you where these Germanic tribes came from. Okay, and if we have time, I will do my best to try and pull up the textbook online and show you some of those charts and maps that I think are most important to study. Alexia says, who is Scipio? Scipio, if you were paying attention to the clip that I showed from Gladiator today, Scipio was the leader of the Roman forces that defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in Carthage. So Scipio's idea was this. Hannibal had his entire force of 55,000 men attacking Rome, and he was doing a really good job. He was winning some battles. Scipio's plan was, hey, what would happen if I attacked Carthage, which is of course, Hannibal's hometown. If I attack Carthage, then will that force Hannibal to leave Rome and then come back and defend his home city? And it did. So it was a great scheme by Scipio. And then Scipio defeats Hannibal in his home city just outside on the battlefield called Zama. Okay, so that's really one of the big picture ideas that you need to know about Scipio. Sometimes he's known as Scipio Africanus because he invaded the northern region of Africa, which is where Carthage was located. Maya says, do we specifically say Caesar's reforms or just know them as a whole and what they did? Are you going to have to list Caesar's reforms? Probably not. I would focus on the whole, kind of like what I was just talking about with I don't know who is that in that picture. I'm not. It's not bringing. I'm not sure what that is, Maya. That's just really bad. And you still have Tammy there, so that's double. That's 2 days. Maya, I think you're on for a couple weeks now. Yeah, I think you've accumulated quite a bit of crew. But I would focus on the whole and what they generally did for the poor. I think that would be a great answer to that essential question. All right. Next. What should we write for the first and second triumvirate? Well, I'll give you the names of the people who were in both. In the first one, it was Julius Caesar, a wealthy politician named Crassus, that's Crassus, and then the military general Pompey, Pompey. The second triumvirate was Octavian, who eventually became known as Augustus. By the way, 2 months in the calendar, October, which is coming up, right? And August are named after Octavian Augustus. And July is named after Julius Caesar. And then, so we've got Octavian, in the second triumvirate. You also have a politician named Lepidus. And then you have your boy Mark Antony making up that second triumvirate. So once again, first triumvirate is Caesar, Crassus, Pompey. Second triumvirate is Octavian, Lepidus, and Mark Antony. Good question, Hannah. Why did Pompey and Caesar's armies battle each other if they ruled Rome together? They did start off ruling Rome as a triumvirate, right? So they had 3 rulers that were all kind of working together. They were all friends. They were all friends, by the way. Pompey gets really jealous of Julius Caesar's power. He feels like Caesar has gained too much power and he's kind of running the show on top of Crassus and Pompey himself. So what he does is he convinces the Senate to get on his side. He's like, hey, Senate, this one guy is getting too much power. That was not the goal of the Republic. We need to put this guy in check. And this kind of angers Caesar. And so you have jealousy. You've got a little bit of lust for power. It's a power struggle. That's really how it ends up. That's unfortunately very seldom do we see multiple people being able to get along and rule for a very long time. They ruled successfully for 10 years. They were able to do this for about 10 years successfully. And then eventually they had this falling out over jealousy and lust for power. Lust for power is what I mean to say. Dominic says, what do we have to know about the Etruscans, the Greeks, and the Latins? You want to know that these are the first 3 groups that inhabited Rome, and the order would be Latins, Greeks, and Etruscans. Very simple what you really want to focus on. With the Latins, you want to know that they were actually the first true Romans. We have discovered huts that prove that they were the oldest inhabitants of what is the city of Rome. For the Greeks, you want to make sure that you have an understanding that they, by way of trade, were all throughout Italy. And so they also had established trading posts near Rome. The Etruscans of these 3 groups were probably the most influential. They really taught the Romans how to use the arch, which we saw in a lot of pictures today in the slideshow, how the arch was used in the aqueducts. It was also used in the Colosseum and other structures. So the arch was a really, really big Roman engineering and architectural structure that they took from the Etruscans. And then the Etruscans also taught the Romans the alphabet system, which led to their lettering and also their numbering. Okay. Uh-oh. Maya's got another picture here. It's her question says, I don't know who's in the picture. Terrible, Maya. I see. Do we specifically need to know Caesar's reforms or just them as... You already asked that question. I just answered that when you tricked me. Good job. Wow. Okay, Kirk. Yes, Janda is going to get crew. Well, actually, Janda doesn't really have the crew. He put a question mark, so I got to be a little bit lenient on that. He was asking, I think, what Tammy meant. So I should probably give him a reprieve there. Avery says, more detail about Diocletian, please. Okay, so yes, Diocletian. Number one thing you want to know is Diocletian is most well known for splitting the empire into two halves. So he divides the empire into the Greek-speaking East and the Latin-speaking West. Under Diocletian, he actually appoints another ruler to rule the West, which is Rome, Italy, France, England, Spain. Those are all parts of what is the West. The East would have been like Egypt, Greece, Turkey, Anatolia, parts of the Middle East like Jerusalem. So the eastern half is the more wealthy side. That's the side that Diocletian takes control of. So really that's the biggest factor or factors that you want to know about Diocletian for this quiz. Okay. He ruled with some of the other things that we talked about in the notes. He ruled with what's called an iron fist. He was very strict. He doubled the size of the military, which helped to alleviate some of the military problems that they were having, helped to fight out some of the invasions that were happening. One mistake that he made that I talked about in lesson is that he did try to set fixed prices on goods to solve inflation. And this did not work because basically I gave the example of having the price of bread. If you were a store owner and let's say inflation sets in, so really $1 is really only worth 90 cents. Store owners are going to raise the prices to about $1.10 so they can offset inflation. If Diocletian comes in and says, nope, the max you can charge, the fixed price on bread is going to be $1, well, then it limits the profit possibility for a store owner, and they may have to go out of business because they're going to have to pay their employees. They're going to have to probably pay their rent. So when you start setting fixed prices for goods, that is not a solution to inflation. And that was something put in play by Diocletian. Pia's got a question. Oh no. The picture wars are just out of control. I'm getting a little bit worried about you guys. They're so mean to your classmates. I don't know who that is, but you guys are just, why are you doing that to each other? That's not very nice. The question is, I'm going to answer the question just because I'm doing my job, but what should we, jeez, I got to keep my composure here. What should we know about the Jewish diaspora? What happens is the Romans move into Jerusalem and they force the Jews out. They actually destroy the temple in 70 AD and they force the Jews to move out. They just force them out of their homeland. So the Jewish diaspora is what we call the forced dispersal of the Jewish population of their homeland in Jerusalem. And they eventually settle in Europe and other parts of the Middle East. That's really what you want to know there. Janda says he wants the crew. Wow, there are a lot of my former students who wanted the crew. I used to do after school crew. And so people would literally get the crew so that they could come after school and clean up papers. I used to have them clean the fans. I don't know what they wanted to be there for, but they just wanted to be in the realm. I think there's maybe something special about the realm. I'm not sure, but that's weird. I wouldn't want to pick up papers or clean the floor, but that's totally up to you, Master Janda. Parker, good question. Can you post a slideshow you showed in class? Because I wasn't in school. Yeah, anybody who wasn't in school, I did already post it. It's on the weekly agenda for week 6. So I've already got you covered. All you have to do is go to my bulletin board page, go to the weekly agenda, and there should be a link up there. If it's not there, please let me know, but you should be able to access that. Gabby says, do we need to know the exact 3 people in each triumvirate? Yes, there may be a matching. There may be a matching that asks you to know those individuals that made up the triumvirate. So that would be helpful for you to know. Yes. I'm Pia, I'm not going to pull that up, but I'm not making fun of your picture. I don't know who's who, so please don't get mad at me. I would never make fun of anybody's picture. That's not my goal. I'm just trying to teach the review session here. I'm staying on task. The picture wars are your guys' thing, not mine. I am not promoting that. I've already given out several crews for it. So if you want to be mad at me, I really my hands are clean of any picture war stuff. That's on you girls. Alexia says, can you repeat main points about Octavian, please? Octavian was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. He becomes part of the second triumvirate. He defeats Mark Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium, and then he becomes the sole emperor of Rome, and it's with his leadership that the Pax Romana begins. So that's one of the most important things to remember about Octavian, is that after he defeats Mark Antony and Cleopatra, he becomes the sole dictator or emperor of Rome, starts to expand the empire, and it's under his leadership that we definitely see the Pax Romana begin. What do we need to know about the Germanic people? Well, one of the key things that you want to know about the Germanic people is going to be that they are on the outskirts of the Roman Empire, places like modern day Germany, Poland, Russia, France, even England. And eventually those tribes attacked Rome when they saw Rome weakening because of the inflation, the military discipline problems, the hiring of mercenaries, the economic issues that Rome had, so on and so forth. Oh, a question, a side note here, Grace. Is it true that you are going to have to leave the realm when the new building is finished? Oof, this just hurts my heart. I'm not sure. I am going to fight it. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to sit in the parking lot. This is one thing that I will probably go sit in the parking lot about. This would be that important to me. I want to stay in the realm. I've been there for 15 years. I started off in the realm my first year teaching. I've had the same room. I love the realm. I have everything that I need there. They've even talked about giving me a smart board. So I really want to stay in the realm. I would appreciate any help that you could give me, but this would be something that I might sit in the parking lot about. I feel very strongly about this, Grace. So this one might bring tears if I don't get my way. We'll see what happens. To be continued. Good question. I like that question. Okay. Hannah says, is there anything specific we need to know about Paul? Well, if you're a theologian, you know that Paul started out as a pretty bad guy. He was persecuting Christians. He was actually responsible for the death of many Christians. Eventually, he has an epiphany. He has like a viewing where God had a storm, and he was like spoken to by God, or a representative by God, that kind of put the fear of God into him. He said, good Lord, if you save me from this storm, I will follow you. And he followed through with that. And so then Paul became a full-fledged Christian, eventually changed his ways. It's a true story of forgiveness there. I mean, because he was a bad guy. Let's not move around that one too easily. But one of the things that you have to know is that Paul then is one of the biggest factors in the spread of Christianity by writing what are called the epistles. These are those letters that I referenced earlier today, where he was trying to reach out to different groups to get them to convert to Christianity. I don't think I can pull up any more of Maya's questions, but I'm going to read the question. It says, who are the main figures of Christianity that we need to know? Okay. Of course, Jesus Christ, Paul, who I just spoke about, Peter, the first pope, who I just spoke about, Constantine, who was the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity. Those are the first four that come to mind. If you know those four, I think you're in pretty good shape. Man, oh no, what did I just do? Something just happened and I switched the screen. Here we go. Oh no. Something's happened to my format here. Okay. Well, we'll just continue to go here forward. Thanks for the support, Grace. Thanks for the support, Lacey. All right, it looks like those are all the questions. I've made it through all of the questions there. Any other questions that I can answer for you? Definitely appreciate the support on the all right, now this is crew. Okay, so Janda can't happen, but that's definitely crew. So you got it. So you guys are really pushing the limit there. We don't want to see that. Never want to be derogatory there. Okay. No antagonization either. You know the rules. All right. I have one more banner that I wanted to pull up, and that is going to be my final advice. I don't see any other questions coming my way. So I'm going to pull up the final advice here. And one of the things that I definitely want to make sure that you have an understanding of is going to be, of course, that I want you to complete the review sheet. You really need to make sure that you complete the review sheet and then quiz yourself off of the review sheet. So utilize your review sheet and quiz yourself off of it. I want you to study the charts and the maps that I put on your review sheet. I put those on there for a reason. Of course, if you have time tonight or tomorrow, I want you to watch the YouTube videos for Chapter 6. All you'd have to do is go to the Chapter 6 playlist. Even on your ride into school, you could listen to those. Listen to me repeat to you all of the key things that I covered in class throughout the entire chapter. I think that would be actually pretty helpful for you to listen into. Finally, I want to put a note that I did post a few videos about the SAQ style questions. So I posted a few videos that I think would be helpful in breaking down short answer AP style questions. I think that you should watch those if you have time. Finally, my number 5 on the list is really important, the prayer of gratitude. You know, don't pray to do well in this quiz. It's going to be a challenging one. Most of them have been. But this is really your last quiz before the thing starts to really get a lot more intense. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, if you're feeling good about your A right now, or your A minus or your B plus, that's great. Don't get too comfortable. You got to keep driving, because starting in chapter 10, it's going to be a whole new ball game. There's going to be really an increase in the AP style of questioning that comes your way, and a decrease in the content style, because that's what we're working toward. We're working toward that end goal of passing the AP exam at the end of the year. The prayer of gratitude is something that you can do throughout your day. When you wake up in the morning, thank you, good Lord, for giving me this day. Remember that. Instead of checking your phone, instead of going right down and eating breakfast or whatever you do, take a moment and say, thank you, good Lord, for giving me this day. When you get into your parents' car, or if you're driving and you get to, and your car starts, thank you, Lord Jesus, for giving me this opportunity to get to school. Some kids in this world don't even have this opportunity. Some kids have to work, okay? When you get there safely, if you're driving especially, thank you, Lord Jesus, for getting me there safely. When you have an opportunity to get through a class, thank you for letting me be here at St. Mary's in this wonderful institution. I'm appreciative. If you can do that throughout your day, if you can thank the Lord, look at how much closer you're going to be to the good Lord in a very special way. And I think that's what it's all about. Remember, our motto here at school, God, family, St. Mary's. I think you should really keep those priorities in perspective, with God being first. And if you can pray the prayer of gratitude, you're going to be in really good shape. Finally, be here now. I mean, I think it was pretty evident that as we were going through the questions, there were quite a few distractions, you know. So I think that one of the things that you really need to focus on is being here now. I really want you to make sure that you're focused mentally. So tomorrow, we really need to focus in. All right. So that's one of the things that I really want to make sure that you have a really good understanding of. Okay, that's really a key factor there. All right, let me see if I missed any questions. Okay, I think I've got one here. Can you give me a in-depth description of Hannibal? Yeah, Hannibal was a key general, a military general from Carthage, and Carthage is a city-state in North Africa. Basically, one of the things that Hannibal is most well known for is attacking Rome, but he attacked Rome from the north. He actually marched about 50,000 soldiers and roughly 60 war elephants up through the Alp mountains of Spain and Switzerland and then down into Italy from the north in a surprise attack. He actually won several battles against the Romans, which gained him fame, but eventually he was overrun by a military general named Scipio who attacked Carthage. Who's that, Master Jonathan? The man who asked about Hannibal? Well, I'm glad I can help you. That's good. No doubt about it. Okay. I think, okay, see you later, Maya. I'm not going to say that word. It's a banned word. So you got crew again. So you're basically 4 weeks now? Four weeks. You're the same as Ashton. Yes, you're welcome, kind sir. You're welcome to join, and I appreciate you. Hopefully, I helped you out about Hannibal. Okay. If there are no further main questions, I'm gonna let you guys go. Write the question for me, John? Did I miss? What did I miss here? John, let me know what I missed. But can you write the question down? Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm looking for the real questions here. I don't see any real questions. I just see guys being funny, which is fine. But there's still 42 members on. So if anybody has a question, I'm willing to stay. Okay. I'm willing to stay. Okay. I really don't see any. It's close to 10 o'clock. So of course I want you to be here now tomorrow. And part of that has to do with getting some rest. So I really would like to wish you a great night. If you get a chance, thank your parents for doing everything that they do for you. And I'll catch you tomorrow for the quiz. Good luck. Have a great night.